Okay. I was watching this guy, Nobody Special Finance, and he's awesome, and he inspired me to just put down a video really quick. Uh, Something that I found out on this video that I hadn't actually heard yet today is that the Federal Reserve, looky, all of that quantitative tightening, about 8 months of it erased. Let's say 5 months of it erased in the last week. In the last week, isn't that crazy? And we haven't even gotten to this week yet. I wonder what that's going to look like. So, quantitative tightening for now is on pause, and it may be over. Uh, Steve Van Meter was talking about some interesting things with the money supply and the monetary base. And he seems to think that the money supply is contracting. From what I gathered, you have to watch this video from today. It's the 16th. From what I gather of what he's saying, the monetary supply is contracting. And a lot of banks are going to have problems because of that, among other reasons. And he likened it to a game of musical chairs. So there's a dwindling money supply, a dwindling monetary base, which is your pure liquid cash. And the banks, that's their lifeblood. So he said, well, it's like musical chairs. I liked his analogy. Steve Van Meter, he's a bit of a doomer, but he's awesome. He just points out a lot of things. He's very knowledgeable. So those two I were watching today. And one thing we have to always remind ourselves of. This is an article from 2007, actually. This is a contemporary account of Bernanke saying that, oh, don't worry about the subprime mortgage crisis. Oh, don't worry about that. That's not going to be a problem. So, and if this was a one-off, then I would forgive people for not understanding that it is always the case that public officials, when encountering a crisis, their first thing to do is deny there's a crisis, because these people just want to sit back and sacrifice children, I guess, or whatever they do, and make money and grift. They don't want to have to deal with the real crisis, so they always do this whole denial thing. Sometimes they're actually in denial. And, the government agencies, they're always in denial at any given time. So that's what they do. They say, oh, well, this isn't going to be a problem, right? Well, we had Credit Suisse, which is a huge bank in Europe. And that tells me, watch out, Europe. What did the euro dollar do today? Because that would be an interesting metric. Euro dollar lost 0.5%. So that means the euro dollar people are hedging against increasing interest rates, raising interest rates. It's very interesting. Move index, that's I think mostly United States, that goes down. We had some big moves in the bond market today. I mean, I had a feeling not months ago, about a month ago, that this bond market was going to start getting unstable. I just felt like it's like we're reaching the end of the road as far as what the Fed can do. And I shorted some bonds earlier this probably late last month, and I talked about it in a video. I got rid of those just in time, and I'm not trying to brag because it was a pure luck move, but I said, I have a bad feeling about this. I got into positive territory on both of those short puts, and I took them out. And we were at maybe 50 to 60% on one, and nothing major, but I got them out and made money. So I didn't realize the extent to it, but I felt that the bond market was reaching, was at a support level, and that it was being pushed up. And I figured that it would look very volatile because there would be injections of cash into the secondary market and demand, and then rates would go up, and then people would panic, The vanguards of the world, they're basically part of the government, and they just come in there. All these big private equity firms, they'll come in there, sometimes at the behest of public officials, and they'll do a deal like that. So I was surprised how still, now we're at 3 days in a row, I think maybe one day. In the last 5 days, we've had like 3, maybe 4 days where we had huge moves in the bond yields, either up or down. So I think the overall trend over the last 5 days has probably been slightly down. Not really. This is in the 10-year, 5 days. So yeah, let's go 1 month. Yeah, we're down. We started going down that back there. So we're down for the month. So, but we had some big moves, and we were having big moves for a while before that. So anyway, the thing is, let's go back to what Bernanke said before, because I got sidetracked there. I mean, I just think the bond market had what kind of was cluing us in on what was doing. So the Fed just did quantitative easing to the tune of $300 billion. Thanks, Nobody Special Finance for tuning me into that. You got a money supply that's collapsing. They're going to chase the money supply. They're going to increase interest rates next week because of the quantitative easing. Now they're going to have to raise interest rates to try and put on the airs of, oh, we didn't just do all that $300 billion that we said we weren't going to do. These people are 2 steps behind these people in the Fed and all throughout the government, they're like 2 steps behind everything that's happening. Bless their hearts. They think they're going to be able to retire in these positions, these young ones. I don't see these institutions lasting a whole lot longer. All right, but just remember what Bernanke said in the middle of the subprime mortgage crisis. This was as it was happening. I think Lehman would collapse. It was in 2007. One of those big banks collapsed shortly thereafter, probably a week or 2 after that. So they always do this. They always say everything's okay when it's not. And you just can't trust them. And see, like I was saying, this has happened over and over and over again in history. I'm going to see right off the top of my head if I could find another good example. Oh, yeah, I found one. I should have thought of this. This is the whole saga of inflation and how for 6 months, a good 6 or 7 months, they were denying that there was inflation, at least for 3 or 4 months. They were denying, they weren't talking about the inflation. Then you start getting into summer, and they start talking about it. But in the beginning, in the first few months, they said flat out there is it's not inflation or it's not systemic. Then it said it was transitory. Which is true. All inflation can be transitory, but yeah. So that was an easy example. So they do this all the time. So don't think for one New York minute that this crisis. Don't trust them in what they're saying. It seems like there's something going on, because why else would the Fed do that much quantitative easing in 1 week? It's pretty remarkable. What are going to be the consequences of guaranteeing all deposits in these banks without a blanket guarantee, no matter how high those those deposits are? And what does that mean? There's everybody talking about how the banking and like the larger banks are getting flooded with requests for deposits because the idea is that the Fed would never let one of the larger banks have an issue like that. So have we already just socialized the banks completely? Is that what we just did? I mean, there's so much going on. But look, from a boiler mechanic bozo point of view, and someone who's more, I consider myself actually above average in history. And I would say that always, time and again, the first response of any public figure, any politician, any king, emperor, whatever, dictator, is to deny that the crisis is happening, gaslight the population, okay? So just don't trust them. Make your own decision. It's easy to trust them. People want to trust them, and that's what they're counting on. They're counting on you also being in denial. Okay, so let's remember that. Let me think and see if I have anything else to say. Yeah, that's my boiler mechanic idiot perspective. I am out.